If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Well, good morning, and welcome to the September the 12th edition of the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and we thank you for tuning in to today's program. Let's give you some numbers that you can get in contact with the show, and that is 516-453-9921. For those who are new to the program, all you have to do, if you have a question or a brief comment, is press the number 1 button, and when the call screener or whoever is on the line contacts you or lets you know, then you can you'll just go into rotation. Excuse me, yeah. Now, if you are a first-time caller, you do the same thing, but maybe indicate to the call screener that you are a first-time caller, and we have something special for you, and you will be heard. Secondly, let's see here. You can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, that's MRBOBBY, @gmail.com. Now, it may not be read today, but you can certainly do that. And at a time when the call volume is slow, then a Gmail could be read. So even though you send it, it may be a while, but at some point in time it will be read. And lastly, you can join the chat room. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com, and you want to click on programs. And then when you click on program, a list of shows will come up, and you want to produce just a show. You click on that, and the chat room is available for you to get in. And there you go. There you go. All righty. Let's see here. Moving along here, I think that is all the announcements I have. So let's go proceed with the show. Okay. Mr. Neely Fuller is on the line, so let me do my customary thing, and that is to greet Mr. Fuller. Good morning, Mr. Fuller, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
All righty. All right. Now, for those of you who are new to the show, and for those who are regulars, we have a segment called The Thoughts and Expressions on the Mind of Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Mr. Fuller, the day being the 12th of September 2023, what is on your mind this morning for us?
Well, the question that Mr. Rodney King back in the 1990s asked during an interview, can we all just get along? We're stuck here for a while. There were statements that he made in an interview. Can we all just get along? We're all stuck here for a while, whether we like it or not. Here meaning here on the planet, whatever he meant. But that was a question. Is it possible? School shootings, cannon going off in the Ukraine every day. Some teenager lying in the street, bleeding, all over the place. School shootings, about every event that comes up, where there's a crowd of 200 or 300. You always have to be nervous about being in that crowd. This is in the year 2023. Not getting any better. And in the midst of it, we still have a whole lot of celebrations of this and that. Whereas we shouldn't be celebrating and should be here in the month of September emphasizing educating. That's the best way to celebrate. We should change the whole meaning of what constitutes a celebration, considering our circumstances, the circumstances of the whole world. What we call celebration should be an education situation. Just change that frame of mind. What do people do when they celebrate? They, well, have balloons maybe, or they eat food, or they beat on drums, or they march up and down the street. But maybe we should look in terms of talking about things. What things? Solving problems. Because in the midst of a whole lot of our celebrations, there's gunfire. We have what we call fireworks. And sometimes, in the midst of the fireworks, there's one type of firework, and then there's others. Fireworks are supposed to be a part of the celebration, and then there's fireworks at the same event that sends everybody running and screaming and falling down bloody. And we're supposed to be celebrating something. Can we all just get along? Otherwise, what we call our celebrations are nonsensical. So starting off here in September, there's going to be a lot of crowds, football games mostly. It's football season. Sporting events of different types. And at the same time, we're going to schools in the Northwestern Hemisphere, particularly, after the summer, where we're supposed to be learning how to get along. So we need to examine everything that we're learning. And maybe we need to look at all types of conflicts, historical, a lot of it we celebrate, and we study it to celebrate it. World wars, etc. That's what we learn in school. should be doing. Just one king after another. Dr. Martin Luther King, what does he say? And examine it and act accordingly. And like to Mr. Rodney King, can we all just get along? That should be the emphasis. A lot of things we are doing is pure nonsense. We're not qualified to celebrate anything with all this chaos and misery. We should educate, not celebrate, but educate in everything that we do, in all areas of activity, about a basic, simple thing that's maybe not so simple. Can we all get along? Getting along meaning what? Being peaceful. Trying to figure out a way to help somebody, not hurt somebody. And we can start by stopping glorifying violence, war, military events. That's what's on my mind.
Okay. That's what's on your mind. Okay. Let's go. 516-453-9921 is the number to get in contact with the show. And we will go to Richmond, where Wesley is there. Let me get this over here, Wesley. And we'll go right there. Wait a minute. Okay, Wesley, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead this morning.
Yes, sir, family. I got a question, and I called last week, but the time ran out. And this on a subject of politics. And I want to know why black community or non-white people, far as the Democratic Party, that they don't see, that understand, refine white people, that we receive gifts, but it's not designed to end white supremacy. I just want to know, is it a mental blockage or what? Why you support something that does not end white supremacy?
Well, go ahead.
I think as far as a non-white person or black person, by one political party give you gifts or promise you things, but it does not try to end white supremacy. I don't see masses or white people protesting to stop injustice. I might see them protesting abortions or life or anything, but you don't see a massive or white people supporting injustice. So why would a non-white person or people support something that does not live up to his promises?
So that's the question. Well, are you saying what should non-white people do?
No, sir. I'm asking is, why do black people support something that they don't see a result, more like on a political level, where you don't see a massive or white people supporting or fighting injustice? You don't see them protesting or passing laws to stop injustice, but black people support that party. More like, I'm speaking on the Democratic Party. You don't see no no laws or nothing to fight injustice or white supremacy. So why would a non-white person support something like that if they don't get no results from their support?
Well, that's a question. So you amplify that question. And basically, it seems like what you're saying is, why is it that people don't support injustice? Just what you said. So you just raise that question. That's what you do. When it all comes down to what you do, according to the code. The code says you raise that question, just like I said about repeating something that Mr. Rodney King said. Why can't we all get along? That's a question. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. So you just get more people to ask that question. Why aren't more people supporting getting rid of non-justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help? That's an old idea, worn all around the edges, but it's for what everything should be about.
Yes, sir.
Wherever people are being mistreated, anywhere on the planet, any time of day or night, you want that to stop, and then you want something else. You stop the mistreatment of any kind by anybody, anywhere, for any so-called reason, and then the next thing, whomever needs help, constructive help from an earthquake or whatever, whomever needs that help gets that help in the most constructive manner that is available to the minds and bodies of people. That's it. That's the whole show. That's what everybody on the planet should wake up in the morning and go to bed at night thinking about and speaking about and then acting on what they're thinking about and speaking about. Why can't it be done? Who should do this? Who is best able to do this or that will bring all of that about? This thing called justice. Guaranteeing that nobody's mistreated. And guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. That's all. You just keep saying it. And keep doing it wherever you happen to be. That's wherever you happen to be. That's the codified under the United Independent System. Just look at yourself first, and then look at the world around you, and say, what should I be doing, and what should I be trying to get other people to do? And then do it. And first order of business should be getting rid of the first problem, which you just mentioned, the problem of the system of white supremacy. And you can ask people, is there any problem greater? And listen when they answer. But until then, until you find a problem that's greater than that one, and there are plenty of problems, but that's the key to solving all the other problems. You've got to get rid of racism if you're going to have peace on this planet. That's a priority, or you're not going to have it at all, because that's the greatest problem.
Yes,
So that's the best answer I can give.
Ms. Fuller, I would want to know, is there a fear to try something new where you support something that don't support you? You know, if you know you're not getting result from something that you are supporting, why can't you break away and try something new? If you I'm speaking on politics. If you know it's not supporting your interests or trying to end white supremacy, why is there a fear or is there a disease where you can't break away to try something new?
But you got to have a process for doing that in answer to the question. And I would say you have to have a code. And part of that code is you keep pointing out that you can't solve any major problem until you get rid of racism. The textbook for victims of white supremacy lays that out right on the back cover. Just glaring right in your face what the situation is. And it says no major problem can be solved without getting rid of racism. You're not going to stop these shootings. Black people are going to still be killing each other forever. Singing and marching and whatnot, that can be a part of getting rid of that racism, but it only goes so far, and the evidence shows that. But you got to come down to a code about what you do every day, because little things is what add up.
Mm-hmm.
So the code says the less contact you have, the less conflict you have. That's with any people.
Mm-hmm.
So you minimize the contacts among black people themselves. That's one way to minimize the killing. Black people have gotten so that we can't say anything to each other without cursing and acting angry and being angry. So if that's the situation, you look at it, you say, well, you can't curse nobody out if you don't see them. Or if you do curse them out and they're nowhere around, you're talking to yourself. And that kind of gets old real quick.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
No people like to just talk to themselves. They want to talk to somebody else.
Uh-huh.
But if you give plenty of space, eventually they'll say, well, maybe I better change what I say when I'm talking, and maybe somebody else will want to talk to me. Because if I'm being hostile with everybody that I talk to, I'm going to be by myself. And the minds of people, the average person doesn't like that at all, particularly black people. Black people love to be around people. You want to really fix us in a way that we're in a terrible mood, you isolate a black person.
Mm-hmm.
So that they can't talk to nobody but themselves and see how they like it.
Oh, okay. All right, Wesley, thank you for your call. Thank you very much. Okay, let's going into the Gmails here. This is from Stan the Man. I think it's in two parts, but I'll do the best I can to read it. Hello, Mr. Fuller. Can you please lead me to the document or the part of Mr. Fuller, your book, about how there is no such thing as an American? You were also just mentioning in a program that the U.S. Supreme Court, in this concept regarding how even they would have to admit this idea or concept about not being an American. Then he goes on to say, but Mr. Fuller did not explain what he meant when he suggested that you could, in fact, argue this idea with the 9 justices of the Supreme Court. But I do understand what he's saying when he says that white supremacy is the primary, quote, government, end of quote, that exists on planet Earth. So therefore, I suppose that we are all white supremacists or supporters of white supremacy in some small or large manner. Now, is my thinking correct regarding this? If it is,
yes.
So what do we call ourselves? Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Black people call themselves what they are, victims of the system of white supremacy, prisoners of war. We can have several titles, but it means the same thing. Prisoners of war, we're that. Of what war? The war between those who believe in racism and those who don't. And so far, we are losing that war. We haven't lost the war until we stop fighting. But we're trying to get rid of racism. But racism is the dominant government on the planet. The white supremacists, the white people who believe in dominating and mistreating people in all areas of activity 24/7 on the basis of color in economics, in education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. The white people who believe in, not talking about all white people, but I'm talking about the most powerful white people, or white supremacists. The most powerful white people on the planet Earth, according to logic, are people who believe in racism in the form of white supremacy, which means dominating and mistreating people who have color in their skin. That's what it is. And so we need to get rid of that and have Americans, Africans, and Asians. And what is an American? What is an African? What is an Asian? They are people who practice justice, but they don't exist in the system of white supremacy, because the system of white supremacy does not allow any of the people on planet Earth to practice justice, because that's the dominant government on planet Earth in the year 2023. I hope I'm making myself clear on this. So there's no confusion. Just one government on the planet. So the question was, what do we call ourselves? We call ourselves victims of that government, because that's what we are. We meaning whom? The non-white people of the planet. That's whom.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Question, answer. That's the answer. That's who we are. Because the question was, who are we? Victims of the system of white supremacy. That's the badge that Neely Fuller wears. I mean, and that fits me more than any other identification that I'll try to give myself. That doesn't mean nothing. Whatever I call myself, what I really am, I better be obedient.
Yes, sir.
To those white people who believe in dominating and mistreating me, which is what they do.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned in the beginning, something that Rodney King said, can we all get along? And I've seen instances where even with the locale where I live at, there was a person that was in a car, and the police came up. Now, this person did not fuss, did not fight, and did not flee. And the officer on his body cam came up to the car, asked the man to get out the car. The man had the window closed. And I don't know if he did. Obviously, he didn't get out 3 or 4 times. He didn't get out. And the officer shot several times and killed him. Then they fabricated a story saying that the man had got out. This is all documented and done such and such. What do we do about that when he followed the don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee, but he still got killed?
You think about where you are. You're in a battlefield. Black people got to get used to the idea of the truth. We are on a battlefield, this whole planet, if you're black, if you got color in your skin. And everything unfortunate is subject to happen to you at any minute, because that's what happens to soldiers on a battlefield. Expect that. That's why it's important to stop boogalooing and say, I'm full-time on a battlefield. And on a battlefield, you're subject to get killed at any time.
Okay.
Because you're on a battlefield.
Yes, sir.
You're not in paradise.
Okay. But now, before we go to break here, now this person followed the rules of don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee, and he still got killed. If he flees, like that 21-year-old pregnant woman got killed, and she was trying to flee. So what is a person supposed to think? They'll get killed if they follow what the law enforcement officer said, and if they try to flee to get away, fearing that they might get killed and still get killed. What do you say about that?
Exactly what I just said. On a battlefield, you can expect any moment to be killed, regardless of what you're doing.
Okay.
But you do your best.
Okay.
That's why I have on the website, producejustice.com, I have a list of movies. There's a movie that's on that list called Saving Private Ryan.
Yes, sir.
That's about, and it shows a scene on what they call D-Day, the 6th of June, 1944. Now, one of the scenes on that battlefield, in the midst of a battle, some soldiers raised their hands, which is the signal, I give up. And so the soldiers who were approaching them with their rifles, approaching them, and they saw they had their hands up, and they were saying something to let them know that I surrender, like soldiers sometimes do on a battlefield.
Yes, sir.
And so the fellows were saying, the people who were approaching them with their rifles pointing at them, saying, "What'd you say?" And what the person was saying, trying to speak in the opposing person's language, he was saying, he thought he was saying, I give up, but he was saying, I want my supper, in what he thought was the other person's language. But regardless of what he was saying, in the heat of battle, they kept saying, "You say what?" They said, well, we already got our hands up, which means you surrender. So that was the basic language. But they shot them anyway. They killed those 2 soldiers anyway and laughed about it. Because that's what happens when you're at war.
Yes, sir. Okay.
And so on the streets, when you get pulled over and you get shot 40 times, and they can photograph and film the person, the white person most likely, sometimes black, working in behalf of the system of white supremacy, laughing about it, and you can expect that.
Okay.
I don't want to start. I want to keep my voice level too, right?
Okay.
All right. That's anti-code, right?
Yes, sir.
But we can expect that.
All
right. We can expect that, folks. We can expect that every minute of every day that we're breathing, and even after we stop breathing, we can expect that will go on and on and on, because that's a part of the system of white supremacy. You got to get rid of the entire system for that to stop. We have to get that into our heads. It's not going to stop.
And replace it with?
Replace it with a system of justice.
All right.
Which is something nobody has ever experienced in recorded history.
All righty. All right, got to break it here. We're way over. You're listening to the Calendar Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and we thank you for your listenership. Now, to get in contact with the show, you need to call this number, 516-453-9921. Press the number 1 button, and when the call screener comes on, give the call screener your name so that I can properly give you an introduction without messing your name up or butchering up whatever I do to it. And I make mistakes every week, including today. But I try real hard not to. But anyway, give your name to the call screener. If you're a first-time caller, make sure you tell the call screener that, and they will alert me, and we will make sure or do every effort for you to get on the air. You can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, M-R and then B-O-B-B-Y @gmail.com. You can do that, or you can do this. You can join the chat room by going to blogtalkradio.com. Once you get there, you want to go to the programs menu. When you do that, you click that, and then shows will come up, and the Produce Justice show is the one you want. You get there, and you are there, and you can join the chat room and get all the information that is going on in the chat room. Okay, from the Gmails here, we'll get to you, Darnell, after this Gmail. Thank you for doing that. Let's see. Chris wants me to ask you, Mr. Fuller, could you ask Mr. Fuller the following? He said, Mr. Fuller, I have scoured the code to see what is the codified practice as it relates to choosing where to live. Based on different economic situations, it would appear to me that one would purchase a home or rent in the safest place they could possibly afford. The safest place then would appear to be, quote, where the white folks are, end of quote. What does the code say about this, sir? This is Chris from Brooklyn, living in Jacksonville.
The code says follow the logic, and just what the illustration that the person just made, that's what the logic tells you, takes you to. You're safer all over the world. People are getting on boats and crossing borders and all this type of stuff right this minute. Why? Well, some places, all places are dangerous, but some places are safer than others. And so you say, well, where are these places? Just like the caller just said, right on point. Yes. And in the northwestern hemisphere, yes, you are going to lose the value in your house when you're around a bunch of black people. You buy a house among a bunch of black people, what we call our great black community, and your house is going to lose value from the time you move in it. Why? Because you are rated as a valueless person moving into an expensive house under the system of white supremacy. So wherever you find a whole bunch of black people, the value of where they are is going to drop with the same value that they have. Because black people in the system of white supremacy are considered to be what? Valueless. So a house of $500,000 or $1 million, say, nice round figure, that a black person moves into is subject to drop to $500,000 from the moment that black person puts his black foot in that door. Say, well, this is now a ghetto house. That black person that's walked through that door, you just lost $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's the system. That's the system. They report that type of thinking because it all comes from a thought. And in the system of white supremacy, yeah, you're going to be a loser. The black person is supposed to lose every day. You're not supposed to gain anything of value. You're supposed to lose everything of value and be left with something that's valueless.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you are valueless in the system of white supremacy if you got color in your skin. That's why you have to get rid of the system of white supremacy. Talking about we're going to have a prosperous black community. You're not going to have a prosperous nothing in the system of racism. You've got to get rid of the system of racism.
Okay.
We don't understand that.
All righty. Let's see. Okay, Darnell is gone, so we'll go to, let's see, who is this? We'll go to Farrell. Says this, good morning, Mr. Fuller. I'd like to ask you this. How dangerous is the English language to all non-white people on Earth?
As dangerous as the white supremacists want it. You're not going to be in any danger. The white supremacists don't want you in danger. We are beggars, prisoners of war. We are already prisoners. We were born in prison. And our prison uniform is the color of our skin. So I don't care how you dress up. You can have all the bling-bling you want. The bling-bling is worth something, but you are not. And the bling-bling loses value when you got it around your neck. You know, I don't want that stuff. It's been around that black neck, and I know it. If I sell it to somebody, I better tell them who had it before. They'll say, oh, no, I don't want it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I move into this house, but I'm not going to pay full price because I'm moving into a house that was occupied by one of those animals. No, you're going to have to drop the price. I'm going to move anywhere where they have been. And I know it.
Okay. All righty. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Let's talk about your book. Now, I noticed that particularly in the 1984 edition, that you have a picture of a computer graphics on there, not on the other two books, not on the a word got and not on the 2016 revised edition of the compensatory concept here. And I was wondering, when you put that on your book, were you aware that, the relevance of the book concerning what is now going on with AI, with the use of computer technology?
No, I wasn't. In fact, that was somebody else's idea. Because they say, what you're talking about, Fuller, is your whole concept is about having everything that black people do computerized. You said you have that code, that everything that we do, it's things that black people do, things that black people don't do, because that's what the code really is. And that is my intention. Things that you do and say, and things that you don't do and say. That's all that the code is. Because that's what black people need. So somebody said, well, that's like a computer. I said, yeah, black people should perform like a computer so that they always get the best results. Because a computer, when you, just like an adding machine or anything like that, when you push the correct buttons, you get the correct results. Black people don't have anything like that, so I'm going to try to invent one. And they'll say, well, you're turning black people into machines. I say, no. You are teaching black people the best things to do. The best thing to do when you're going to climb up on a roof, rather than try to climb the walls, is to go get a ladder. Duh. But black people are not taught that way. We're just taught just try to get up there any old way without thinking about nothing. Just using your fingernails and try to hang on to the shingles when you get to a roof of a house or whatever, when you can go and get something that's made to get to the roof of the house, and that's a ladder. But we're not taught to think that way at all. So that's what I tried to write in the code. So this person, and I don't even have the person's name, put that computer design on it as a cover. It presented it to Dr. Francis Wilson and said, this will be an excellent cover for Neely Fuller's book.
Mm-hmm.
And the person didn't even talk to me. Talked to Dr. Francis Wilson. And Dr. Francis Wilson showed it to me. And I said, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that looks like dots and dashes and whatnot. So that's how it wound up on the cover of the original book. Now, on the cover, since I had to do so much writing on the covers of the 2016 edition, I decided just to put the colors of people as the dominant feature on the book. Also on the word guide, the dominant feature, since the books are all about the color of people, I just put black, brown, red, yellow, white. It's white on the word guide, and presumably, because we're becoming more, as they say, colorful throughout the world, then on the 2016 edition, I just put the dominant colors on the planet.
Yes,
among people. And if you notice on the border, black, brown, red, yellow.
It sure is, yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, when you were writing, putting together this concept, you mentioned that for a while you were carrying it around, and was it some sergeant or somebody in the in the service that you were in. I think it was in the Army or Air Force. I forgot which one for sure.
Air Force.
The Air Force. And he reviewed it and he didn't like it or something like that.
No, he never saw it. I hadn't written the book at that time.
Mm-hmm. Well, wait a minute. There was a conversation that maybe I got my information incorrect, but somebody you were speaking to, they read a little bit of the book and said that there was nothing in the book for them.
That was somebody on a job.
Oh, okay.
I was out of the military.
Okay.
No, I was working in another branch of the government as a so-called civilian, Bureau of Engraving and Printing. And somebody at that job site saw my book and read it. And he came and told me. He said, Fuller, I read your book. And I didn't see nothing there I could use. And I told him that's exactly the way the book is supposed to be. It's written for the individual person. The individual person who can use it. And the individual person who can't use it will just say they can't use it. I said it's for the individual person to help them solve problems. What problems? Their own. And by solving their own, they'll be solving the race problem. Because that's the biggest problem they will have. That's the theory, and that's the practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe in what I've written myself. I use what I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I started writing it in the first place. I was not writing it for everybody else. I was writing it for me. And how I started doing that when I was in Japan in a military uniform. But I started trying to figure out I need a code for dealing with racism.
Okay. You need a code. Now, when
I needed a code, right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started talking to people about different things that I'd written without knowing that I was doing that. I was following my own code. And some of the people there in the military said, Fuller, you talk differently. Say, and I noticed some things you say and some things say, what religion do you have? And so I told them the religion that I said they had at the time, but I didn't think of it as that. And I said, well, and then later on, people were later on jobs and whatnot. They would say, Fuller, you got a way of saying things that are different. What is this? Is it some organization you belong to? What is it? And so I didn't know that I was actually following my code. It was raggedy most of the time, but a lot of things, because I said, and so I didn't know how to answer. I just say, well, I say what's on my mind. And then it came to me, I'm transferring some of the stuff that I use at meetings and all like that. I'm actually doing this. I wasn't aware that I was doing it most of the time, but I was the type of person who had a way of always fumbling the ball when I'm trying to explain something. And I still do that, even now, on this program. I do that, because people pointed that out. Say, Fuller, you're all over the place when you try to explain something. And I have that habit right now, as anybody who has been listening to me over the years. Fuller has a way of just going from here to there, and you don't know where he is. But usually people just explain and say, Fuller talks funny. He talks different from the rest of the guys. I mean, he comes up with stuff out of the air that you can't quite know where he's coming from or where he's going. And this is how it all evolved. And I said, I'm trying to make different points. I'm trying to get people to see things in a different way from the way they're used to and from what they have been taught. Start thinking at another level and then finding the words to express those thoughts. Mm-hmm. That was the hardest part. And then start making up stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well,
which is what I did, like in the Word Guide.
Okay. Well, in doing that, do you feel that you've been successful or gaining any ground on trying to relate your information to people?
No.
Why?
No, nowhere close. Because people are not acting like they have a code. Not the code that I am presenting, including people who know about the code. They don't act on it. They act out of habit, which I understand.
But didn't you say they don't have to agree with it? But didn't you say they don't have to agree with it?
No, that's not a requirement.
Okay.
It's an option. Because who's going to enforce it? It's not supposed to be enforced, except the person enforces it themselves because it works for them. And that gets back to that initial question about the fellow who said, "Ain't nothing in that book will help me." And I said, that's exactly the way the book is supposed to help work. You read it, and you pick out of it what works for you. It's not something you've got to do. Who's going to make you got to do it? The white supremacists are definitely not going to help you support anything in my writings.
Okay.
Because everything that I wrote is opposed to their business. And they're in business to stay in business.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, Mr. Fuller, we've come to the conclusion of the first hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show. So we got about a minute and 25 seconds left. So I'm going to give you the final word for the first hour before I close it out. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
The final word is Rodney King, what I started with. And that is, can we all just get along? And so everybody's going back to school now with the school books in their backpack and all like that. And when you open those books, that should be the first guide that you get about, you interpret it from a counter-racist viewpoint, and then you try to come up at the end of that class with an answer to that question. Can we all just get along? Just start with that. And that's Rodney King in the 1990s. Mm-hmm. And try to answer that question with a yes. Yes, we can. Somebody that was a slogan years ago. Yes, we can.
Right, can we all get along? But how can we get along?
And another slogan, yes, we can.
Yeah?
That was a slogan.
Yes.
I think
it was.
President Obama used it in his campaign.
Barack Obama. Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can. So he was answering indirectly Mr. Rodney King. Can we all just get along? Yes, we can. Because it's possible. It's possible to produce justice.
Can we all get along?
As a replacement for the system of white supremacy.
All righty. Well, let's close it out. That concludes the first hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. So we thank you for listening to the program, and hopefully you will come back next week with more of your questions. But for those who are going to hang on and stay on the line, we have another full hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller. We apologize, or I apologize, for any mistakes I've made. Behind the scenes, the usual suspects on this end are at work, but we're trying to press our way through. But that is to be expected. So if you have to go, then hopefully we will see you next week. So we'll say goodbye for now. And stay tuned for the second hour, which will commence in 5 seconds. All righty, welcome back to the second hour of the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. We would love to have you to be a participant in today's program. And to do that, all you have to do is call this number, which is 516-453-9921. And if you have a question or a brief comment, just press the number 1 button, and the call screener or whoever's back there will get your name, and then I will recognize you. If you are a first-time caller, please be sure to give them your name, and we have a special program set up for you that you can get through. In other words, you will be heard. So, again, that number is 516-453-9921. Now, you can also join the chat room if you'd like. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com, and you want to get where the menu that says Programs. And once you get that menu, you click on that, and then a list of shows will come up. And you want to get the Produce Justice show. You click on that, and when you do that, the chat room becomes available to you, and you can get in the chat room. And lastly, you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY, @gmail.com. Now, I can't promise you it will be read today, but at some point in time when the call volume is low, then there's a possibility that your Gmail will be read, so it will not be ignored. So this person just called in at the 647. Give me your 647 prefix. Give me your name so that I can properly give you an introduction. Now, if you missed the first hour, Mr. Fuller focused in on a statement by Rodney King, can we all get along? Can we all get along? And Mr. Fuller, when you say that, how can that be when there's when you say no conflict or no contact? How is that possible? Can to get along with another person if there's no conflict or to communicate with a person?
All communications, as it says in the textbook, should be on the basis of you have something constructive to say.
Okay.
Or do. In other words, all this thing about black culture and let's all get together, that's one slogan you hear black people use all the time. We got to get together. No, we need to get apart with the kind of mindset that we have. And the only time we come together is when we're doing something of constructive value. And that's the only time we, quote, whatever getting together means, that's the only time we make even telephone contact. Now, black people are on their cell phones in the Northwestern Hemisphere non-stop because we love making contact with people, white people too, on those cell phones. You're not supposed to be, according to the code, making contact with anybody on any kind of type of phone or even in any setting. You're not supposed to be saying anything or doing anything unless, what, according to the code, it produces a constructive result. That's the criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can be cemented together as long as you're doing something constructive. The minute it becomes non-constructive, which is what a whole bunch of people, black and white, do in the system of white supremacy, you're supposed to break contact. That's the first thing you do with anybody else so that you don't spread that poison that you're carrying.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't spread it to you. Because too many contacts are poisonous.
All right. Too many
Now,
contacts.
that's gospel. That's codified gospel.
Okay.
Too many contacts that people make. So you make sure before you contact anybody, is this going to have a constructive result? Those two words, they are key in counter-racist codification or in people relations codification.
Mm-hmm.
That's a solid part of the compensatory code for victims of white supremacy, is that all contacts, not some, all, should produce a result that is guaranteed to be constructive. Otherwise, don't have it.
Okay. Well, a story that you related at a couple of times is when you were giving a talk somewhere, and I believe you said that two guys in the back had something to say and came down and confronted you with it. You stopped talking and asked them to present whatever it is that they had to say, and they ran out. How did that go?
That was in New York City.
Okay.
It was in the early 1990s.
Uh-huh.
And while I was talking, two white males, ran down the aisle, and I was up on a podium, and they shouted out, "You are homophobic." And they didn't give me a chance to react because then they ran out of the place. But I was beckoning for them to come down. I said, "Oh, well, come forward and make your case." You know, in other words, I said, hey, when you accuse somebody of doing something that they shouldn't be doing, come down and make your case.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And I've done that on at least two occasions that I remember, because that's what the codified procedure is. Somebody says something about you, well, if it's something they say you shouldn't be saying or doing, I want to be aware of that. And then you can come down and just make your case. That's the codified procedure. But before I could even respond, they ran back up the aisles and ran out of the place.
So they made the statement.
On another occasion, it was a black person who said, "You are misleading the people." He shouted from the back of the room.
Yes, sir.
And I said, "Come forward, sir." See, that's the codified procedure. I mean, immediately 5 or 6 people in the audience jumped up and said, "Hey, put him out of here. Put him out of here. He's being disruptive." I said, No. You don't put anybody out. That's not the codified way. I said, come down and state what it is. The person has something to say. So he came down. He had a big book under his arm. And I had a blackboard behind me that I'd been pointing at where I'd written some things. I erased the blackboard. And I gave him the pointer so that he could write, and showed him where the crayon was. And I sat down. I went and sat in the audience. I said, okay, I'm misleading the people. Lead the people. You know, you got the podium. So he started writing, and he started talking and pointing and reading from his book, that big book that he had. And after about 6 or 7 minutes, it went on for this, maybe less. Most likely it was less, the way I remember it. Several of the people in the audience say, okay, brother, all right, we think we've heard enough. You made your point. Because he was talking about some ancient something.
Yeah.
Something to deal with antiquity and whatnot. And evidently the crowd didn't want to hear no more.
Okay.
So several of the people let him know, you made your point now. I mean, we've heard enough. And so he folded his book and laid the pointer down and went back out and sat in the seat where he was. Just like the people who had come to hear me directed him to do. So he calmly did it.
Okay.
But the first thing, the most important thing is, people wanted to throw him out, and I said no. I mean, you don't seal off information. This person may have the solution to our problems, and that's exactly what he's trying to convey. So let him give us a solution. We're here about solutions. In other words, I was recoining that phrase right out of The Godfather, a phrase that I like. It ain't personal, it's business.
It's business. Okay.
So some of the people in an audience were saying, you're disrespecting Mr. Fuller. No, you're not. I mean, this is business. This ain't about Fuller. This is about getting the job done. And anybody who knows how to get the job done should get it done.
Okay.
And they should be listened to.
Yes, sir.
You don't know who that might be.
I can see by your example of why it is necessary that all of us operate under a code or be codified, which you've been talking about for quite a while, by your response to the gentleman by saying, let
that
him
was
speak.
The codified response.
Yes.
Let the person, I don't care if they're white, black, or whatnot, the person who got the solution to the problem, why keep talking about solutions when a person walks in, I got it. And they should be heard. To any problem that you haven't solved.
All righty. Let's go to the Gmails. Some of this was answered, I believe it was last week, but it came up again, and then I'll just read it. It says this. According to your code, Mr. Fuller, is contact between black males and females in the area of sex considered constructive if it provides mental health help to the victims of white supremacy?
Absolutely. Anything that anybody says, white or non-white, that's going to help solve a problem in such a way that that problem solving had a constructive result, by all means, from any source. You don't care where the source is. Does it solve the problem? Out of the mouths of babies. I mean, that's an old slogan. Sometimes a problem is solved. I've heard people who are half drunk make more sense than somebody who's cold sober. I mean to the half drunk to the extent that they didn't know what they were saying themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But they said it. I've actually witnessed that. Other people would be talking about this and talking about that, and some drunk that just staggered in. Say, all y'all got to do is such and such, and then staggered out. I think I remember a scene like that. That's why I know about it. And he made more sense than anybody who had been doing all that talking for about 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And he just came in, listened for a while, wobbling, and made that statement. I don't remember what it was, and then wobbled out. And then everybody looked at each other and said, you know what? He's right. And we all laughed. I think that's the way I remember it.
Yes, sir.
I said, he's half drunk. You don't even know what he's saying, but he was right on the money.
All righty. 516-453-9921 is the number to call. And don't forget, if you have a comment or question or VGQ, which would be a comment, press the number 1 button, give the call screener your name so that I can hopefully give you a proper introduction. From the Gmails, this comes from Brian. He says this: good day, great knowledge as always, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, you said 2 names you will never hear together. One was Elijah Muhammad, and the other, and he has a question mark by there. Now, I don't remember you doing that, but can you recall that? 2 names that you will never hear together?
Vaguely.
Okay.
Right.
Share what you can.
Well, I don't remember it. You know what I mean? I just remember.
Okay.
What was it I reported to have said?
2 names. One of them was Elijah Muhammad, and the other one was, I guess Brian didn't hear what the other one was. He was writing in to find out what was the name of the other person that according to him that you said that you won't be heard together.
Yeah, I just vaguely remember, and I don't remember now what any of that was. But I remember just like you just said it. I remember that, but I don't remember the occasion or what I said because I don't remember the question. I could probably answer the question now if I had the question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and a recording maybe of what I said. I don't remember it now.
Okay. How about this one? 516-453-9921 is the number to call to get in to ask your question for Mr. Fuller, and the phone lines are open, so you can do that now. This comes from Anonymous. It says, Mr. Fuller, are non-white people serving a life sentence in the system of white supremacy?
Yes. As the white supremacists claim, of course they've been claiming that, I guess, from the beginning, that they're going out of business and that they believe in justice, but the white supremacists will say anything, but they keep doing the same things. That's the hard part. They'll say anything. They'll say they believe in justice, but they don't act on what they say. They don't tell the truth. They are opposed to the truth. If it's what? If it's not good for the business of white supremacy. That's the code of a white supremacist. Say anything. Promise them anything. Like the people who are called red people or redskins, Indians. Promise them everything. Sign anything. And give them absolutely nothing. And take everything from them. And then say, I did it, but I didn't do it. And don't condemn me for what I did and didn't do. You say, well, what you did was not the thing to do. Says who? And then sometimes they'll say, well, that wasn't the thing to do, but it's done. That's what they're saying even today. And they'll say, well, it's not right, and it shouldn't be done. But then at the same time, they're telling you this. They're doing it. Say, well, yeah, you're saying that, but you're killing the people. You're poisoning the water and all like that. Yeah, that's not the thing to do. That's a rotten thing to do. And you're standing there watching them do it. And you say, well, yeah, but I'm standing here watching you do it. You're poisoning the water right now. Oh, is that what I'm doing? That's not the thing to do, is it? And they just keep right on doing it with you standing there watching them. Hey, this is a terrible thing to do. You know, I agree with you. Well, let's think about it. But all the times they're talking, they're doing it. The white supremacists do that every day, all day, right now, with you standing there looking at them.
Yes, sir.
And say, oh, is this what I'm doing? They wink at each other all day. That's their code. Don't pay any attention to the reaction of black people. That's the white supremacist code. Their reactions don't mean nothing. Do what you are assigned to do as a white supremacist and say anything where you can just keep doing it. Oh, are we killing you? I didn't know that. Oh, let's see. I'm going to have to think about that. And just keep pouring the poison the whole time they're saying that, standing there and you watching them, poisoning the water. Yeah, this could be what I'm doing, you know? That's what you said. And you say, well, stop doing it. And you say, stop doing what? I mean, they just talk that. See, they say anything.
Yes, sir.
They don't care.
They don't care.
Because they know that we will stand there scratching our heads trying to figure it out when you say, hey, you're killing people and you intend to keep doing it.
Okay, let's work with this. This person in the 262 prefix, I don't have your name, but I'm going to take a chance and see if I can get you in here. Wait a minute. Let me put this over here and let's roll with it. Okay. No disrespect to you, but you are on with Mr. Fuller. Good morning. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Greetings, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller. It's Corey from Milwaukee calling.
Oh, okay, Corey. Yeah, I got you now. It just came up. Go ahead.
Thank you both for the show, and thank you, Mr. Fuller, for all the information and questions you're answering. Mr. Fuller, I had a question about the word humble. It's not in the word guide, and I just wanted to know, recently I had a white person express that non-white people that need to be humble. So I just wanted to know your opinion about this word, and I didn't have an opportunity to ask the suspected white supremacist about the use of that word. So I was trying to ask you, Mr. Fuller, what do you think about this word?
According to the code, I'm supposed to think about any word the way that it's being used. Words are just a way of communicating, that's all. There's nothing sacred about any word. So if a person uses a word, according to the code, the procedure is ask the person using the word what the meaning of the word is, and take as long as it takes to get the meaning of that word the way that the person who is using the word means before you act on the use of that word, and do it just with that person. And when another person uses the same word, you do the same procedure. Sir, ma'am, what do you mean when you say the word humble? And wait for them to tell you what they mean, not what you read in some book, a dictionary or whatever, or what somebody else said the word means. What does the person who is using the word mean? And you do the same thing when you use a word.
Okay.
Like I do when I say American. American is a person that practices justice. So with that definition, I go on to explain there's no such thing as an American, no such person. Americans don't exist. Why? Because it's impossible to practice justice in a system of white supremacy. A world government, the system of white supremacy, is designed to practice non-justice. So you can't have Americans or Africans or Asians in a world dominated by white supremacy, because that's an unjust system. So you can't practice justice. These are people. An American is a person. An Asian is a person. An African is a person. But these are all people, according to the code, who practice justice. Americans, Africans, and Asians practice justice. They do not exist because nobody can practice justice in a system of white supremacy.
All right.
So that's out of the code book, and I will say that going before anybody's quote unquote Supreme Court anywhere on the planet, any time of day or night, because that's the truth.
Okay. Since Corey said that he looked in the word guide and didn't find that word, humble, and you have mentioned on many occasions that you couldn't get all the words in there because, number one, the word guide is not, and I mean capital N-O-T, not a dictionary. With that being said, Mr. Fuller, what, in your opinion, in your humble opinion, would be your codified response to what humble or humility is?
I hadn't thought about it. See, that's part of the code, too.
Okay.
I have to think about how, and the only reason I don't have it in the word guide is because I didn't see a need for it, or I hadn't thought about it.
Okay.
See, the word guide is just a guide. In the English language, even among dictionaries, if you go to any library or any school, you might find a dictionary that has words in it that another dictionary of the same language, the English language, doesn't have.
Yes, sir.
I have that on my shelf right now. I got one type of dictionary, Merriam-Webster. I got dictionaries called the New World Dictionary of the English Language, and one book will have words in it that the other book doesn't have. How do years ago I asked the logical question: why is it you find some dictionaries that got words in them that are not in other dictionaries? And then somebody told me, lexicographers. That was a word I hadn't heard before. People who make dictionaries are called lexicographers.
Yes.
And what do lexicographers do? Because I kept asking questions. So they go around and listen to the way people use words. and then they come back and put them in books called dictionaries. And it's just that simple.
Just that simple.
And so that means that one lexicographer will have words in his or her dictionary that his and her friend, who is in the same business of lexicography, does not have in his or her dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are a couple of buddies who are both of them are lexicographers, who each one of them have put out their own book. So that's how I put out a word guide.
Yes.
Saying, now this is what these words will mean to a victim of white supremacy.
Got it. Okay, we're going to break it off here. Thank you, Corey. Nicolette, we're going to get to you after we take a break. All righty, you're listening to the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, and we thank you for your listenership. Now, if you would like to get in contact with us, and we would love for you to do that, you have about 29 minutes left in the show, so you can do that by calling 516-453-9921. Press the number 1 button, as Nicolette has done from Maryland. And when it's your time, which will be her time the next time coming up, we'll get to you. So have your questions ready for VGQ. Make it brief if it's going to be a VGQ so that Mr. Fuller can understand it and we can move on with the show. Oh, yeah, by the way, don't forget that the books and materials can all be purchased at producejustice.com. That is producejustice.com. I think that's all the house cleaning I have to do. Yeah, and in the first hour, if you missed that, the key phrase was, can we all get along, taken after something that Rodney King said in the 1990s. Keep that thought in mind. Can we all get along? Okay. All righty. We're going to get to Nicole and the person in the 437 prefix and the 440 prefix. Don't forget to give the call screener your name. Okay, Nicolette, here we go. See if I can get over here and push this button here. And okay, Nicolette, you are on Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Okay, Hotep, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. So I was thinking that when Mr. Fuller was given the illustration, that when the young man said humble, when Mr. Fuller was saying that we was asking questions, but the white man kept doing it. I think the young man, when he said it about the humble, that went together. That's first of all my thought. And then I know when I will start getting educated, when Rodney King said, can't we all get along, a lot of teachers were saying when we use words like can't, it's still in the slave tongue, so that's why we're not moving and advancing the way we are. I thank Mr. Fuller, as always, for giving a code so that we can apply that and see justice come in some form or some manner. And that's pretty much what I had to say. Thank you for keep on teaching, and I'm glad that I keep on learning.
All right, Nicole. Thank you very much. All righty. VGQ. Way to go, Nicole. Okay. Victor, we're going to get you. Don't forget the person in the prefix 440. Give a call screen of your name so I can get you on. Okay, Victor, get ready to ask your question. Okay, Victor, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Victor in Canada, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Fuller. I've been experiencing a lot of racial shadowboxing confusion, and it's getting so violent. Like they're using my brother to tamper with the food. We live in a house, and the white supremacists are using my brother against me to go through my computer and tamper with my food and instigate fights. So what I try to do, I try to follow what you said about avoiding racial shadowboxing, but sometimes it's so really challenging, and I don't personalize what my brother does because I know that we're both subject to racist white supremacists. But what could other things that I could do to avoid me not allowing my emotions to lead me to logic?
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
Well, page 171, 172 is supposed to fit every occasion. You find out what is that page, those 2 pages about. They're about a 4-letter word, W-A-N-T, want. Your brother is a person who wants something. Because everybody wants something. Every creature wants something. Every minute of every day. Things that you want, things that you don't want. So what you have to do is find out what is it that your brother wants. You can't interact with people any kind of way, in a constructive way for sure, until you understand what that person wants. So you start, first of all, if the person will communicate with you in any way with words, you start by asking the person, what do you want me to do? Evidently, when your brother wants something and he wants you to be involved, he most likely will tell you. So you can ask him, brother, what do you want? You're my brother. So what do you want me to do? Question number 1. Question number 2, why do you want me to do what you want me to do? Why? And wait for the answer. Always wait for the answer. Don't make any remarks while he's trying to explain. Listen. You do the questioning, but you don't make any remarks about, because you can do that later, about the answers that you get. You just patiently wait. First question, what do you want me to do? Second question, why do you want me to do that? That's after he answers. Never move to the second question until he answers the first one. Number 3, how do you plan for me to do what you want done? That's the third question. And the fourth and last question, what do you expect the constructive result to be if I do what you want me to do? And wait for the answer. Now that's the codified procedure for what is called constructive communication. It applies to all situations when you interact with anybody at any time, under any circumstance.
All righty. Thank you, Victor from Canada. Hadn't heard from you in a long time, but thank you very much. Okay, let's go to Cleveland, and Austin is there. Oh, wait a minute, Austin. Let me get this over there. Okay. All right, Austin, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Good morning, and what is your question?
Hey, thank you so much, Mr. Bobby, and good morning to you also, Mr. Fuller. I had a question for Mr. Fuller in regards to self-defense. I'm a very firm believer in self-defense by any and all means necessary. And on social media and the internet and everywhere that I've been seeing women and girls put their hands on men first. And I wanted to ask you, Mr. Fuller, if a woman puts her hands on a male first, does the man have a right to hit the woman back? If a woman puts her hands on a male first, does the male have a right to hit her back?
What's that last word? First or something?
Does he have a right to hit her back in self-defense?
if a woman puts her hands on a male's what?
If a woman puts her hands on a man first, she attacks him first.
Oh, okay. All right. If a woman attacks a male, if a female attacks a male.
Yes, like a slap or a punch or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
Does the man
okay.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get what I wasn't understanding what was being said, which sometimes that's a hearing problem or something. Okay, if a female attacks a male, basically that's what you're saying. Okay.
Yes, like a slap or a punch.
All right. Okay. Then what? What's the rest of it?
Yes. Should the man hit her back in self-defense?
He should restrain her or put distance between himself and the source of the aggression. That would apply to anybody. You try to get away from the source of the aggression. Get away from the person. Because it's already done that he's been slapped. Or anything, been hit. You try to put distance between you and the source of where you're being hit. Male or female. Or animal. Try to put distance. Put that safety space. If you can't, then you repel the aggression by any means necessary. But you first try to get away. Put distance away. Not retaliation. Because it might be someone who is mentally ill. And a person who attacks you unjustly is mentally ill. But that's the procedure. Try to get away from, if it's a bear and the bear is trying to attack you, you put space between you and the source of where the aggression is coming from, which in this case would be the bear with claws. And it's the same with male, female, male with male, person with an animal. Just basics. Codification is just about logic. That's all it is. Just another way. Even the word itself is just synonymous with logic. And what is logic? Doing what is the best thing that can be done.
Okay.
Under any circumstance. You might have to sit down and figure on something that calls for a lot of figuring. Days, months, years. But once you come to, well, what's the best thing to do, you latch on to it and stick with it. And that's what you call a code of action.
Okay.
Always the best possible thing. So it's just that simple when it comes to what you call aggression.
Okay.
And then you can sort it all out later when you get that distance first.
All righty. All right. Thank you, Austin from Cleveland.
Thank you so much.
You're good. I'm sorry. What did you say, Austin? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying thank you all so much.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
All right. Mr. Fuller, this is a question that J2K2, but I'm asking this question for him in trying to be codified and using logic. The question is, what is the codified response, Mr. Fuller, when you know for a fact that someone is trying to provoke you into some type of non-constructive action? What is the codified response to that?
You mean verbally?
Verbally, yeah, well, verbally right now, but it could lead to fisticuffs or other destructive manners. What is the codified response when someone is trying to, by any means necessary, to provoke you into some kind of destructive action?
Well, if it's physical, without warning, you do just what I said before. Try to put distance between you and the source. But if they're doing it verbally, meaning something that they're saying, then you go to page, like I said, you go to the want page. If the person is saying something to you in what you might perceive as a hostile manner, then the person wants something. So you find out what the person wants by asking them. That's the best way. What do you want me to do? Since you're talking to me, evidently there's something you want me to do. And if it's not something you want me to do, you let me know that. But that's the first thing I should want to know. What do you want me to do since you're talking to me? It doesn't make any difference what the person's motive is. You're going to find that out with those 4 questions. What do you want me to do, sir? Why do you want me to do it? How do you plan for me to do it? Otherwise, the person obviously may have some plan about what they want you to do that involves you because they're talking to you. So you're going to find out everything you need to know with those 4 questions. See, rather than you making statements, stay away from statements. That's the first thing you keep in mind. That's why I say you can't. It's so far I think so far it's impossible to come up with a better scenario in a conversation than to have as a base for your conversation those 4 questions, because they deal with wants. Mm-hmm. If a person is trying to provoke you, that's going to come out in the open with starting off with, not limited to, but starting off with the questions and the answers, the truthful answers to those 4 questions.
Yes, sir.
Sir, what do you want me to do? And you don't move to, never move to the second question until the first question is answered. And then on until those 4 questions are answered.
Okay. J2K2, Mr. Fuller, appreciated your response to that question. I got at least 2 more questions. The person in the 845 prefix don't have your name, and the 647 I don't have your name either, but I'm going to try and see if I can clue you in right now. So get ready. Since we only have about 10 minutes of the show left, let's see here. Let me see if I can get you in here. Okay. You're on with Mr. Fuller. Sorry I don't have your name up on my screen. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby. Mr. Fuller, good morning. So I have a question regarding white women. You know that whole idea that white women get very uncomfortable in the presence of black men or non-white men, where generally white people get uncomfortable in our presence. even in situations where you're walking in the streets or you are walking down the hallway, you can tell from body language that maybe she's uncomfortable or she covers up or she looks down, she looks away, particularly with black men. So my question is it my job to make them feel comfortable? Should I change how I walk, how I present myself in order to accommodate them? Because I find, sometimes you could lose out on job opportunities because you are just being yourself or you using your, you've talked about how some black men have to lose their deep voice in order to fit in. So is it my job to make them comfortable?
If your job is to show your intent in some way or another with anybody that you're in the presence of. So the answer to that, logically speaking, is yes. If you want to cut and dry it, and that's what codification is about. But you do that with everybody. You want people to find comfort in being around you if that is what you want them to be. Now, if you want them to be aggressive or afraid of you or something like that, then that's your choice. But you send a message to the whole world. There's no danger from me unless you're doing something that I don't want you to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you do that. I mean, your body language or whatever. But black people, sometimes I can understand it, to a stranger, or any people for that matter, sometimes send a message in their body language that I am
true.
a threat to you.
That's true.
So
That's true.
if you're not a threat to the person, then you send that message by any means that you can, that the person that you think will perceive as not being a threat.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
For example, strangers meeting on a road, and I was taught this about the empty hand. Back in ancient times, I heard an illustration of this. People on horseback approaching each other on a lonely road, and one person off distance raises his or her hand. That's to show that they didn't have a sword. That's to show friendliness. I am friend, not foe. That's before you got close enough to the person for that person to use a sword. And that was supposed to be a signal. No other communication. They may pass each other on horseback without even speaking. But the common, you might say, socially agreed upon message sending would be on a lonely road and you're approaching a stranger on horseback, and you are on horseback or walking or whatever, you would hold up your empty hand, fingers spread, just one hand, to indicate I might be carrying a sword on my body. I might be a threat to you, but that is not my intention.
Yes, sir. Okay. That's a
So
very
that's
good
an
illustration. Yeah, that was a good one.
We're just making.
Okay. All righty. Let's go to Darnell in New York. Darnell, you barely made it in, but we got you. Darnell, New York. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. You're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I just want to ask Mr. Fuller, how has the code helped him up to this point in his life?
How has the code helped me up to this point?
Yes.
Right
Yes,
up to this point. In every way. Everything I've done that I've codified hasn't been tested, but those things I have tested have worked. Now, if I do something or write something and it doesn't work, it's back to the drawing board. See, a code is not complete until problems are solved. I have solved some problems. Other problems I even have, I haven't put the code to a test because I haven't had the opportunity. But I know, according to what? Logic, that some things work and some things don't. So it's an ever going or growing process. And you only do what works. You only say what works. That's code.
That's code.
If you do it and it works, it accomplishes a constructive result. Those two words now, that's what you're looking for in anything that you say and anything that you do. It produces a constructive result. And it keeps doing that every time you do it or every time you say it. Stick with it. Don't turn loose to something that works the way it ought to work. And if it doesn't work, don't do it anymore, and don't say it anymore because it doesn't work.
Say it. Yes, sir.
It's just that simple.
Just that simple. All right, thank you, Darnell, as we are coming up on just about the end of the program. This last statement is from Seshat-Tetfeldt number 7 from the Unified Field Theory, just a little piece of it, something that you might want to consider, a person or the listeners might want to consider. It says this: the fabric of existence is composed of a myriad of karmic threads. Nothing exists in and of itself because everything is connected. In the end, man can neither alter or control his emotions. Something to think about. Well, we've come to the end of the program, and so we are, Mr. Fuller, at the end of it. So I want to thank everybody for listening. I'd ask your forgiveness for the many mistakes or myriad of mistakes that I've made today. I will try to get better. Mr. Fuller, the last words go to you.
I'll do it with the first words I started with, what Mr. Rodney King said. Can we all just get along? That's black people with each other, black people with white people with black people. Can we all just get along?
Yes, sir.
Don't necessarily have to like each other. That's another criteria. Get rid of that about who you like and dislike, but just don't mistreat people. And don't have people mistreating you. Can we all just get along? And the answer should be have a code for doing so. And if you don't have a code that calls us to come out with the most constructive result, that's what anybody
yes, sir.
that you interact with in any area of activity anywhere on the planet, that's what you're looking for. And
that's
you make it clear that's what you're looking for and working for.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. We'll try to get better next week. Forgive us for any mistakes. ProduceJustice.com is where you go for all the books. Last word, Mr. Fuller.
That's it. ProduceJustice.com. That's
all righty.
what you should have in mind.
Everybody have a good week. All right. Bye.